The best case study I've ever seen about how to launch a career comes from Steven Spielberg. A lot of people know that he's, the most famous and accomplished director of the past century. What people don't understand is that when he was first starting out as a filmmaker, he got rejected from film school. He applied to USC Film School, he got rejected. So of course he's very persistent, so he applied a second time and he got rejected again. And that's where most people would say, maybe I'm not cut out for this. But Spielberg decided, I'm going to take my education into my own hands. So he decides to sign up for a community college in Los Angeles so he can physically be around the vicinity, which, by the way, is a good insight there too. You want to physically be around the action that you want to be part of, right? So he moves to Los Angeles. He signs up for a community college, but he decides, I'm going to take my film education to my own hands. So he goes to Universal Studios theme park, which has this famous ride, the tram ride, which takes you on the back lot of Universal Studios Hollywood. And it shows you where all the movies are made. And he's 19 years old, and the tram is going around the back lot. It stops for a moment. He jumps off the tram, hides around the corner, and the tram drives away. And he starts walking around. About an hour later, an older gentleman stops him and sees this 19-year-old pimply-faced kid and says, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And he says the truth. My name's Steve. I'm 19 years old. I've always wanted to be a director. I'm so sorry. And they end up talking for an hour. And that older gentleman, his name was Chuck Silvers. And he was the president of the Universal Television Library. And he looks at this kid and goes, "How would you like to come back onto the lot the next couple days?" And he goes, "Wow, that would be a dream." So Chuck Silvers writes him a 3-day pass. And Spielberg comes back the first day and the second day and the third day. And on the fourth day, he comes back up wearing a suit, holding his dad's briefcase. And he walks right up to the security entrance, waves to the guard, goes, "Hey, Scotty." And the guard waves back and Spielberg walks right in.
Amazing.
And he ends up doing this for months. He's asking directors out to lunch and producers out to lunch and actors and actresses. He's sneaking into sound stages and editing booths. He's literally creating his own film school from scratch. A few months after that, Chuck Silver slowly becomes a mentor to this young kid. And Chuck Silver said one of the best things a mentor can ever tell someone, and it actually goes back to something you said, Samir. Chuck Silvers told Spielberg, there's a time where you have to stop schmoozing, stop doing cold outreach, and create something of value, of quality, to show people. And Spielberg took that hard piece of advice to heart, and he spent the next few months spending grueling hours filming and editing a short film called Amblin. It was 22 minutes long. He comes back, shows it to Chuck Silvers, and it was so good that when he was finished watching it, a single teardrop came down his face. And Chuck Silvers reaches for the phone and calls the vice president of production of Universal Pictures and says, "Sid, I got something you gotta see." And the vice president goes, "Look, people tell me every day there's something I gotta see." And Chuck Silvers says, "No, if you don't watch this tonight, somebody else will." And the vice president said, "You think it's that important?" And Chuck Silvers says, "Yes, it's that damn important." The vice president watched it that night. The next morning, 19-year-old Steven Spielberg gets a call from the vice president's office saying, "We need to see you immediately." Spielberg drives over, and on the desk is a contract making him the youngest major studio director in Hollywood history. And what's so remarkable about that story is there's so many, again, you talked about ingredients. There's so many ingredients. I could spend hours dissecting that story. There's so many things that worked. I'd say the most important is that he was extremely talented.
Yeah.
You can't even, that's your ticket to the game. But if we're being realistic, don't you think there was other very talented people in Hollywood at the time who weren't getting that contract? So that's not the only ingredient. And if you look at other things, he had the courage to jump off that bus and to go and talk to Chuck Silvers and then spend 3 months going around and meeting people. If you look at all the different ingredients though, if there was one that if you removed it, the whole recipe falls apart, it was Chuck Silvers. That inside man, that inside woman, that inside person, anybody inside of the organization that you're trying to get in with, who believes in you so much, they're willing to put their own reputation on the line to help you get in. And it doesn't matter if we're talking Warren Buffett's career or Bill Gates' career or Lady Gaga's career, there's always that inside person that turned everything around.